Welcome to the New York Times. On today's episode, we will be talking about the USS Greta Thunberg as it heads towards the coast of Gaza. We'll be talking about the family of the arsonist in Boulder, Colorado, who was detained by ICE, is going to potentially be deported back to a different country. Israel is announcing its biggest West Bank settlement expansion in decades, a move that I'm sure is going to just make everything real smooth. Going to really tap down and de-energize that whole region. Plus, Humans of New York interviewed a Naturi Karta member and was like, hey, we got some Jews we know. All those stories and more on today's episode of the New York Times. I am Eitan Levine. Before we get started today, I, of course, have to introduce a new member of the New York Times family sitting across from me. Normally, people know this show. They know that I like to have a bunch of non-Jews off camera. I can't put them on camera because I say stuff that is objectionable, and a lot of them are in the Screen Actors Guild. And I do not want them losing their jobs, losing out on potential employment, so we keep them off to the side. They're all non-Jews, though. Today, that changes. Today, the New York Times is officially introducing a Jewish entity. As if we weren't Jewy enough. We're introducing a Jewish entity. My Jewy Jew producer over here to my forward, right in front of me, Omri Hanania. Omri Hanania, how's it going? Welcome to the New York Times team.
Thanks for having me. No problem with me losing my job. I am unemployed.
I like how you went in real close and just started yelling into that microphone. That audio was perfect. Yeah, Omri's super unemployed. You know, in today's day and age, we're all unemployed. Actually, crazy thing. I don't know if you saw that VO3 AI, the one that has taken over the internet over the past couple of months. Actually, over the past 3-ish weeks, AI has gone from kind of fun to terrifying as in regards to like job loss. Like, I think that AI over the past 2 months has made a significant shift. And it's now showing all of the jobs that we theoretically thought were going to, potentially be an issue down the line. Turns out these are going to be issues immediately. If you are a entry-level lawyer, fuck you. Goodbye, unemployed copywriters, done. We all knew that. The past couple of weeks, they've introduced VO and all these video creation AI algorithms that are shockingly good. Every time I see a VO advertisement thing or a picture from VO thing, I'm like, all right, goodbye lighting union, goodbye grip union, goodbye assistant directors. Every commercial and most movies are going to just be made on an iPhone 13 going forward. That AI, have you seen the VO AI? It's insane.
Have you seen that video where it's two people talking in the back of a restaurant, and the guy's just like, can you believe we're prompts?
Yeah.
We're just AI?
I watched 5 minutes of the Abominable Snowman hosting a podcast with Bigfoot. 5 minutes, and I was zoned in the entire time. They were going to different locations. They were doing meal prep and stuff like that. It's actually going to be a huge issue. I think low-key, the people that are screwed, TV news anchors. See, they are the most AI. They're already like AI. None of them have any personality. They all kind of just say things that they learned online or that they heard kids talking. They're not cool people at all, and they don't really move. So when it comes to AI, it's just a stagnant. They're just sitting there in front of the computer, in front of the camera. Really easy to replace. Yolanda Vega. She pulls the numbers in the lottery. I don't know if you know Yolanda Vega, but she was very, very famous lottery puller in New York. Goodbye, toast. She's done. Does not have a job. Yolanda Vega is going to be collecting meal stamps out there. I want to give a shout out also. It's been a little bit since the last time we've done this show. Since then, there's been huge global news for the Goyim. This is breaking Goyim news. This is the New York Times over here. Pope Leo, baby. We got a Chicago Pope. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because I bought the Topps Pope cards over here. I think that these are cheap ripoffs of the rabbi cards. I don't know if you ever got Torah cards when you were kids, but the Torah cards used to be collector's items in the Levine family, house. And I always thought it was funny because all of the faces were blurred. The cards were just scenes from the Bible and stuff, like Ruth picking up wheat, or Aaron or King David, whatever, and then they're just normal, and then just blurred out faces because you can't actually draw the likeness of someone from the Bible. Also, they would all be black. And there's no way that the Torah card people are going to let black Moses into a deck. At all. The DEI never made it to the tower card industry is what I will say out there. Okay, let's hit the news. First of all, I want to give a big Mazel's Shkoyach minion out there to Robert Schwartzman. Robert Schwartzman, the driver for Prema Racing, first Jewish Israeli IndyCar driver ever. He qualified first overall at the Indy 500 this past about 2 weeks ago. What's crazy about this is that a rookie, has not qualified first overall. Gotten pole position, as we call it. Rookie has not gotten pole position in 42 years. The first person to do that was our boy, Robert Schwartzman, the Flying L'chaim, as I've been calling him out there, a nickname that is universally not sticking at all. It was a swing and a miss of a nickname out there. So, big mazel, shkoyach, kiddush out there to our Jew of the Week of Sports, Robert Schwartzman. And with that, we go into our news. It's been pretty uneventful past couple of weeks. Good night. That's it. First story up. Obviously, we have to talk about the Boulder, Colorado arson. The guy who threw the guy's name is Mohammed Sabre Solomon, who threw a Molotov cocktail at a bunch of pro-hostage, not even like pro-Bibi or anything, just hostage marchers in Boulder, Colorado, who were marching very peacefully. The guy showed up. He had dressed as a gardener. He had been planning the attack for a year. He showed up with some Molotov cocktails and a homemade flamethrower and decided to injure, at this point, 12 different people that were marching peacefully. A couple of them, I think two of them, at last I heard, were still in the hospital. I do need to point this out. No one is talking about this element to it. When Muhammad was throwing the Molotov cocktails and lighting people on fire, he lit himself on fire. I think that is being lost completely in the stories, that this fucking idiot lit himself on fire while he was throwing the Molotov cocktails at people. Did you see he got lit on fire at all?
No, but they do kind of like setting themselves on fire.
Yeah, they love it. Well, that's the issue, is that this guy looked at those guys setting themselves on fire and was like, all right, that's too crazy. I'll just throw them at a bunch of Holocaust survivors. You know what's funny about, I'll say this, funny. Remember when the guy outside of the Trump rally lit himself on fire, outside of the Trump trial, lit himself on fire? There's a really funny moment when that video was happening. Not that any of this is funny, but there was a funny moment. There's a guy filming him pouring oil on himself. And the guy is just like very faintly being like, hey guys, I think something's about to, guys, like the most timid, like clearly the amount of social anxiety that this guy has, you can just hear it on his voice. He's like, guys, I think someone is gonna, and then he lights himself on fire. He just goes, you guys, he's really, and then then people started to, get into it more. But let's talk about the Mohammed Sabre Soliman. While he was throwing, that's why when he was throwing the thing, he lit himself on fire. That's why if you've seen the pictures they had on him, like the mugshots, he's all burned. His face is all burned because he accidentally lit himself on fire during this attack. So I want to point this out. The guy's a fucking idiot. I don't think that's being said enough about this, is that the guy's a fucking idiot. The developments from this, obviously did it as like a pro-Gaza thing. He had been yelling Free Palestine and he'd been doing it. He immediately told the police that took him in that he had done it because of Gaza, because as we all know, the people that are keeping the war in Gaza going are 82-year-old liberal Jews in Boulder, Colorado, those warmongers. The story that has come out since is that the family of the firebomber was taken into ICE custody, and as of yesterday, was going to be immediately deported back to Egypt, I'm pretty sure. This is the story. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, a 7. No, I'm joking out there. She's hotter than that. That's why Trump hired her. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said in a social media video that ICE had taken into custody the family of Mohammed Sabri Solomon, who lived in Colorado Springs, and who federal officials have said was in the U.S. illegally, having overstayed a tourist visa and an expired work permit. This is what happens when people come here as tourists, by the way. They spend 10 minutes inside of the M&M store and immediately leave being like, we got to kill the Jews. Okay, that's how it works. Mr. Solomon's, now this is the interesting thing that's been getting like some radio play today. And before we had started recording, I told Omri that there are two things that I have laughed at that I shouldn't have laughed at today. The first one is this, that his daughter is about to get deported, can't go to med school anymore. The story that has been coming out today is that his daughter, who had just graduated just graduated high school, was planning on going to medical school. And according to a police affidavit, Mr. Solomon told officers that he'd been planning to attack he'd been planning the attack in Boulder for last year, but he had been waiting for his daughter to graduate from high school. So that her graduation ceremony was on May 29th. I don't know why that made me laugh. I think that it's crazy that this is a part of the story that is getting some radio play today. I saw some like anti-Israel people going along and just being like, oh, we're just going to deport this girl. Oh, she doesn't get to go to medical school because of her debt. Yeah, you don't. Unfortunately, these deportations have been across the board awkward. I don't think most of them should happen. I think it's a complete overreaction. I think Trump is a lunatic when it comes to this stuff. He does this stuff not because it's benefiting the Jews. He's doing it because it benefits his base. He's made a lot of significant headway just deporting people. He's deporting people to El Salvador because of Israel. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, it makes no sense. I think we can deport this one. I'm okay with his family getting deported. I think that at the very least, she should not be able to go to med school. If his whole thing was coming to America and trying to make like a better life for him or whatever, and for his family or whatever, and he viewed the success of that as sending his daughter to medical school, I'm okay with that deportation. On top of that, Omri brought this up before we started. If God forbid, I am getting surgery in Boulder, Colorado, and this fucking neo-Nazi Nepo baby, that's what we'll call it. A Nepo Nazi is what we'll call her. If he shows up into the hospital room, that should not be allowed. Immediately, there's been an issue with all of these low-ranking medical officials who have taken weird stances against Israel that would imply that they would commit harm against Jews or Israelis or anyone that supports Israel. This, to me, is a pretty clear-cut case of you cannot be a lawyer and you probably got to go be a barista in Egypt. Are there coffee shops in Egypt? She should start learning how to say macchiato in Egyptian. That's what I would suggest for this woman over here.
I have one question about this whole thing, which is, do we know when he took his shirt off during the attack?
He actually, this is the funny thing about this. Right before he did this, he was performing for an Iggy Pop tribute band. That's why he showed up completely shirtless. Man boobs a-blazing. It's the fun. He caught himself on fire. I know that it's sad. Obviously, what happened is a fucking disaster, and it's insane that schools and synagogues and JCCs and Jewish museums and everyone has to get heightened security now. Every camps, we're in camp season right now. Camps are probably schlepping out a bunch of guards up there to Mo Rasha and Mosheva and B'nai Akiva and this and that. We need to laugh at the things that are kind of funny. And the neo-Nazi accidentally setting himself on fire in the process of committing a hate crime, it's a little bit funny. It's like when those terrorists accidentally accidentally blow the car up on the way to go blow up their car somewhere with more Jews in it. Anyways, that was number one thing that I laughed at. I probably shouldn't have laughed at, because I do think these deportations are a problem. I do think that right-wing Jews have an obligation to speak up against the deportations and stuff like that, because it's not a good look for us at all. But hey, listen, they're too busy yelling at Miss Rachel. What are we going to do? The second thing that I should not laugh at, that I did laugh at, is our second story of the day. The USS Greta Thunberg has been making its way to the coast of Gaza, and today Israel suggested that it will block a ship carrying activists, including Greta Thunberg, from entering Gaza. And I gotta admit, the thing that made me laugh, kind of funny, was this idea of Greta Thunberg being like, "We are going to Gaza." Just a drone taking her out. I'm sorry, that's funny to me. Maybe I'm a sick fuck, but the idea of Greta Thunberg getting drone striked is not unfunny to me. It's just not unfunny to me. What the fuck does she think is going to happen? Greta Thunberg, if you don't know, is currently on a boat with is Jacob Berger on this boat? Is that?
I'm not sure, but the guy who played Davos in Game of Thrones, which is funny because if they blow up his ship, it's like the Blackwater Bay.
Yeah. I think we got to embrace all these HBO B-list actors. I think we got to send, here's what we got to do. We got to send Pete Holmes to Yemen. Okay? He has to go crashing himself into Yemen. I want the cast of Westworld out there, front lines in Baghdad. I think just securing the embassy and stuff like that. Greta Thunberg is on this boat. It's called the Madeleine and is operated by activist group Freedom Flotilla Coalition, the FFC. Another boat operated by a group called The Conscious was hit by 2 drones just outside the Maltese territorial waters in early May. The ship has traveled 381 nautical miles since leaving the port of Catania, according to Al Jazeera. This is the quote from Greta Thunberg. We're doing this because no matter what odds we are against. Should I do the accent? We are doing this. I'm going to do it as a Hitler accent. No. We are doing this because no matter what odds we are against, we have to keep trying because the moment we stop trying is when we lose humanity. Ms. Thunberg, who's 22, told reporters. She added that no matter how dangerous his mission is, it is nowhere near as dangerous as the silence for the entire world in the face of lives being genocided. Oh, genocided. She said that wrong. That's not a real word. It's genocided. It's not genocide.
That's when you go to the tailor to get your genocide fitted for you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go, before the wedding, I'm just going to go grab a quick genocide.
Genitaler. Yeah. My genital. Greta, for some girl with autism, you usually have better, usually know what words are words and what words are not good. Not irregular. We in agreeance. I bet she says stuff like we're in agreeance or something. The thing about Greta Thunberg is that she knows that this is not going to do it. There's no way that this is bringing aid to any. I've seen the boat. There's not enough food for them on that boat, let alone food for the millions of Gazans. They're trying to just like send a message, which I get why they're sending a message. Should Greta Thunberg be drone striked? No. Let me get that out of the way. Do not drone strike Greta Thunberg. It would be funny if it happened, but who am I? It's so stupid because they're putting themselves in a position to get harmed, and eventually they will get harmed. If you remember, that other boat got drone striked by Israel. So when this happens, the story from it is what I'm worried about because she could get killed. Fully, she could get killed, maimed. Davos could easily get exploded on this. There's a very good chance that this ends in a not great way. They brought it onto themselves for this like stupid mission. The question is, do we think it's actually going to happen? And then the other alternative to this is, and Omer brought this up, we just let her go. Why not just let her go into Gaza? I think that they should just let her go into Gaza, hang around, see what's happening, let her go to the aid distribution points, let her see what Hamas is doing, let them actually go to Gaza. Because you know who's not going to like it when a bunch of gay flotilla people. I don't know what to call them. There's people that are on the spectrum there. There's people that are LGBTQ that are on this boat. There are people that actually cannot go into Gaza without putting themselves into significant danger. I think let them go through. Why not? Let them go through. See what happens. Give them a camera crew. Let this group think. You think that Greta Thunberg has like mental issues. She has she's on the spectrum, right? You know what doesn't have safe spaces and doesn't have like anti-stimulus rooms? Gaza. So I think that she is going to have a pretty tough time being in Gaza doing this mission. My question is, I guess, is if something happens to her, do you think that the response to this is going to be absolutely outrageous, or do you think it's going to be like a more level-headed response? What do you kind of think is going to be the outcome to this if she makes it to Gaza? She's not going to make it to Gaza, but let's say she does make it to Gaza.
I don't think they're gonna drone strike them because that's too much of a PR hazard.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna do what they always do, which is split the difference, make us look bad.
Yeah.
And get nothing done. I think that's what's going to happen.
Oh, this is getting nothing done. She's done nothing. The protests in general, I think at some point we have to have a conversation about how little they've done. No schools have divested from shit. Government policy has become more anti-Palestinian. You guys are now getting deported because of this stuff because you went so hard in the paint and then rallied against Kamala. You rallied against Kamala. Now Trump is in and you're kind of seeing what the alternative was. You can't go back and say this. You can't play victim now if you kind of put yourself in this situation. Schools never divested. The government's gotten more anti-Palestinian. Bibi's only become more empowered because he's seeing no retribution for at least the next 3 years. Smotrich, we're going to get into this, announced that they're going to be moving more to the West Bank. So now you not only fucked up Gaza, you're pretty much fucking up the West Bank also while doing this stuff. None of this stuff actually fixes anything. None of this has ever fixed anything. I would love to see just a list of things that have happened since October 7th that have been positive, that have been because of protests. Do you know any of it?
I do not. I know that this really just goes back to we will not normalize relationships with Israel. It's like, okay, cool. Then you're never going to get your way.
Yeah. Recently I posted this thing on Instagram about DropOut TV. DropOut TV got featured this week by New York Magazine. DropOut TV, if you're unfamiliar, is like this improv comedy YouTube channel or something that it's very, very big. I'll give them that. It's funny. I've watched it. If you've seen, they'd be on TikTok. Their clips kind of come up organically. They have a show called Game Changers. It's run by a guy named Sam Reich. Sam Reich's dad was like in the Clinton administration.
Sam Reich is also the owner of Dropout.
Oh yeah, no, the guy that owns it, runs it, came up with it. College Humor, like he was part of College Humor, all that stuff. The story goes that their fan base is like very like progressive, younger Gen Z audience. And around the time that October 7th had happened, their fans like put up a petition that said that they were going to stop watching Dropout unless Dropout came out with a harsher stance against Zionism and made sure to purge their ranks of all people that identify as Zionists from Dropout TV. Now, does an improv comedy channel have any obligation to get involved in Gaza? Is there any reason at all why they should be getting involved in the Israel-Palestine crisis? Absolutely not. I've described it as this is like if the Rizzler got involved with the Haitian migrant crisis. There's no reason for them to get involved with this. And also, they don't know what Zionism means. They kind of just like picked this term Zionist, like so many other institutions and organizations have done. They just labeled anything that is slightly in support of Israel, or they've just labeled all things Zionist bad without discussing what Zionist means. So that leads to, demonizing and dehumanizing and really believing some awful stuff if you believe that all Zionists are bad. That ideology of just blanket statement labeling everything a Zionist, anything a Zionist, you're a cancer hospital, you're a Zionist, you're a car manufacturer, you're a Zionist, Timothy Chalamet is going out with Kylie Jenner, who one time went to Israel, so that makes Timothy Chalamet a Zionist. Labeling all this stuff Zionist is part of why none of these protests went everywhere, because everyone looked at this and most people don't agree with the protests. Most people see the protests and are kind of like scared by them. So they view this idea of just labeling all things Zionists and saying that all Zionists are bad. By them doing that, they lose like a ton of credibility. So to me, it comes from the same place of like Dropout TV decided to acquiesce to the demands of their viewers. They said, you Gen Z audience, we're not going to just say that we, disagree with the war. What we're going to say, and they put up a post that said that they don't hire Zionists and that to their knowledge, which is the actual quote, they had never employed or platformed any Zionists. They then got into legal trouble because you can't just say that. And it led to, eventually they took it down. They then released like this, like all lives matter kind of post where they're like, oh, we actually, we don't hate Jews. We don't hate anybody. I think that kind of like speaks to the general like lack of understanding about what a Zionist means. And I don't know, to me, the entire group has kind of just like over the past couple of months specifically, just like lost a ton of their credibility when they just like went so hard into the paint. And now they're seeing on the other side what happens if you go hard to the paint, if you demonize everyone, if you just label everyone something, it leads to you not making any friends. And we're seeing what happens if you don't make any friends now. And that's kind of where we're at with it. Fuck Dropout TV completely. Can you imagine being in like one of those? They do this thing where they put people in costumes and they have them do improv as like they're dressed as like a turtle or like a wrestler. Can you imagine like being in a turtle costume just tweeting like all Zionists are genocide? Yes, and I'm gonna teach them an improv form called. I don't even want to say that. I was gonna say Con Eunice, and then I stopped. But Greta Thunberg, enjoy heading over there. Next story up. This is something that I do want to kind of highlight because I do think that there's an obligation with Jews who are pro-Israel but do not feel comfortable with the government and how the war and everything has kind of been handled. I do think that there's an obligation to talk about some of the things that Israel is doing wrong. The biggest of which is that Israel announced its biggest West Bank settlement expansion in decades. Israel is embarking on the largest expansion in West Bank settlements in decades. The finance minister announced on Thursday a step meant to reinforce Israeli control of the territory. Bezalel Smotrich, Halevi, human trash is what I would describe him as. Maybe one of the only people worse than Bibi, even though Bibi, it's really a neck and neck race between the two. You like Smotrich?
No, God, no. You know he's a closeted gay man, too, right?
They're all gay. You don't think Bibi's getting pegged every once in a while?
Getting pegged is not gay.
Yeah. But also kissing. He's also kissing men.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's this very famous clip of him from a few years ago where he's talking about gay people. He's in the Knesset, and it just cuts him, and he's like, "You think I don't have urges I don't follow?"
Ha! That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's like that guy who was like, it was like, what? Oh, we're gonna have gay marriage, and you'll start having sex with box turtles, and you're like, you've thought about having sex with box turtles 1,000%. You really said that on the
He really
Knesset?
said that, yeah.
What is? I feel like Israel's kind of cool with the gays. They love the gays. This is the hardcore right that doesn't like the gays.
Yeah, as a whole, I think, but where Smotrich comes from, not at all.
Here's my question: I know that like the super religious people in Israel hate the gays. They do not like the gays, right? But there's a lot of gays in Israel. Israel is very, very gay. There's a lot of Tel Aviv is like the gay capital outside of Berlin and San Francisco. Is there an element where there's like hardcore right-wing, super pro-military, like pro-Bibi, pro-Smotrich people in the gay community in Israel? Like, is it like, do they vibe at all, or is it like across the board they kind of like split?
There's one member of Bibi's party, the Likud, that is gay. Mm-hmm. It's Amir Ohana. He's the first, I think he was the first gay minister. Yeah. He absolutely sucks. He voted against gay marriage. Oh. I think he also voted against...
He's like the Milo Yiannopoulos of Israel.
Oh, 100%. No, he sucks. That's
kind of nice that we have one of those. I bet our Milo Yiannopoulos is better than this Milo Yiannopoulos. I feel like he's doing a character versus...
Oh, no, he's very honest about it.
Yeah.
He's just like, I hate myself. I don't. Not really. I'm
joking. Oh, yeah. He voted against... Why did he vote against gay marriage?
Because, well, he's part of Bibi's government.
Was he... What is the, thought process there? Is it just because, we're a religious country, we shouldn't, be okay with the gays?
I mean, generally, I don't know. I think that for him, he's just there's this phrase in Hebrew that the gay community uses. It's called domo, which is... so, for those of you who don't know, homo is not a slur in Hebrew. It's what we call them and what they call themselves. Yeah. And the word for similar is domeh. So when you talk about gay people who just want to integrate into the community without making any waves and I'm only gay in the bedroom type shit, we say domo, which is gay but similar to the rest of the population, like a gay guy who doesn't stand up for the rights of the gay community. Kind of like a gay capo or an Uncle Tom.
A gaypo.
Agapo.
Technically, Omri, without giving away your what you look like, I would describe you as a dove shear. That's right, a hairy bear. Is that a term? Do they use the terms oh, you're a dolphin, you're a bear?
I think so. Yeah, and I just want to say I'm too short to be a bear. I'm a wolf.
Oh, look at that.
I've had that confirmed by several gay guys.
That's kind of nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I am a leviathan. No, I'm joking. I'm actually
Leviathan.
Thank you. Bezalel Smotrich, a far-right minister who holds authority over civilian affairs in Israel's settlements, announced the establishment of 22 settlements in the West Bank. Some are existing outposts that the Israeli government considered illegal, but will now authorize. Others will be new towns. Smotrich called the announcement a once-in-a-generation decision. Jesus Christ. This is a great day for settlement and an important day for the state of Israel. With courageous work and determined leadership, we succeeded with God's help to create a deep strategic change, the return of the state of Israel's to a path of building Zionism and vision. First off, let me just say, if you are pro-Israel, you are anti-this. This will lead towards more terrorists. The issue is that this is my fucking problem. And maybe it's even a pride thing. The Hilltoppers and those fucking settlers, they won. Like, they fully won. The lines have been completely redrawn in that area. They've just held on and just were so annoying. And they caused Palestine death, injuries. They light shit on fire. They cause issues in Jerusalem. They cause issues all over the fucking place. And the thought was eventually that someone was going to come and just like stop it. Biden had a chance to do it. You want to go? Obama had a chance to do it. All these fucking American presidents and governors, whatever, had a chance to rein this in for years and years and years, and they just didn't. Netanyahu had a spell over Biden, which led to Netanyahu just like putting settlements deeper and deeper and deeper, being totally okay with the land being redistributed out there. That is not our land. Like, it just is, it's not our land. The Palestinians are not going anywhere. Israel's not going anywhere. 2 million people in Gaza. How many people are in the West Bank?
I think it's like 1.5.
Let's see.
Maybe 2.5?
In the West Bank. Yes, but they're all in a Santander. No, 2.747. 2.7 million in the West Bank. Another 2 million, and keep in mind, I got this off Google, so I could be wrong. 2.7 in the West Bank, 2 million in Gaza. That's almost 5 million people. What the fuck are you going to do with them? They're not going anywhere. So doing stuff like this, all it does is just pokes and prods the bears. And the annoying, frustrating thing is that a lot of why this is done is just to keep the region in chaos. That is it. Because they know the longer these wars go and the longer that there's death and destruction and missiles going over and kidnappings and stabbings, they know that the longer this goes, the longer you'll be able to have this hyper pro-military government, you know, in power. And this is not against military. I get it. I got family over there. I understand the need for, I understand why we are in Gaza. Do I like the way it's been handled? No, like not anti the IDF or anything like that, but you cause a problem by continuously fucking with that region. This move does not, it may expand Israel's borders, but it does not make us safer by a long shot. Also, we don't need this area. What's in this area that's so great? It's the West Bank. There's nothing in there.
I mean, I can tell you the strategic importance of it.
Tell me about this.
So, for context, I did grow up there. So this is a lot of like that. But
in the West Bank?
No.
Yeah.
In Israel. For the audience that doesn't know.
Yeah.
The problem with the West Bank is that it cuts into Israel in such a dangerous way because, like you said, they're
strategic depth. I get that. I totally get the strategic depth.
If you from the narrowest point of where the West Bank starts to like the sea is like 25-30 miles, and the West Bank is mountainous and the rest is like a coastal plain. So if we didn't have people on those mountains, theoretically they could go on those mountains and just kind of like rain rockets down at us, and we'd be really fucked.
But at this point, weighing the pros and cons of this, do you think that it's worth it to keep on expanding and settling into these regions?
I think, first of all, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I have no clue. I'm an idiot, and I grew up there, but there's got to be some sort of compromise.
There's got to be a midway. There has to be a midway.
I think that part of the midway, honestly, would be settling some people in the east bank of the Jordan River in Jordan. Like, they were Jordanian.
You want to go into Jordan?
No, not us.
Oh, okay.
Some of the Palestinians. I think that they were all Jordanian citizens until 1967.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that'll never happen.
That'll never happen, obviously.
The Palestinians, what's fucked up right now is that the Palestinians are stuck in even if they want to leave, they can't leave. The biggest, I think, crime of all of this stuff that has happened is that there's a lot to blame. I'll give them that. Israel's a lot to blame there. UAE, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Greece, Yemen, Iran, Iraq, none of them took in the Palestinians. They don't want to take in the Palestinians. Why? Because The only way to keep Israel the villain is to keep the Palestinians there. They keep them in that region. They don't let them migrate anywhere. Egypt could open the border, and all of a sudden, it would at least alleviate. You want to give Palestinians a choice to stay in Gaza and West Bank? Totally, absolutely. At least Gaza, West Bank, I think they should not be moved. Gaza, you got to give them an ability to free flow in and out.
Well, here's the thing, though. They were originally, last century. Some of them were resettled in different countries like Lebanon, Kuwait, I think Iraq too. And they just led insurgencies in those countries too. And they were kicked out of every country in the region.
Yeah, no one wants to fucking talk about this. They're not all great people. There are a ton of people that are just in them. And granted, this is not about the entire population. We all know if you're a 4-year-old kid, if you're a mother of 7 that's just trying to feed their kids, you're not in Hamas. I totally get it. There is a substantial terrorism issue within the Palestinians that have, and you can totally make the argument that Bibi is responsible for a lot of that because he was letting the money flow in to Hamas. You can make the argument that the Israeli government, because they continue to just pound and pound and pound Gaza in ways that maybe in ways that they shouldn't, you're just creating more of this problem. I totally understand all of that leads to terrorists being created and you can't move them anywhere. I get that. I'm with you on that. That is a legitimate reason why they can't be moved to other places. But that's also needs to be addressed. And it is never addressed. No one ever talks about the realities of any of this stuff because it's complicated, because it is such a 50-50. What do you do if you have a huge group of people with a couple of absolutely terrible people in it and you have to move them somewhere, but you can't move them somewhere because a couple of people fuck it up for everyone else. So, it's this cycle. And then on top of that, you have the people on top that are keeping everyone, in this beautiful homeostasis of chaos.
And on top of that, you got to remember that every country in that region, specifically, especially surrounding Israel directly, are in bad shape.
Terrible. Lebanon, Beirut does not exist anymore as far as I'm concerned, as far as anyone's concerned. These aren't countries that have any ability to function. Iran is not around. Yemen is Houthi.
Syria. Literally what's left of them.
Syria. What's fascinating about Syria is that Israel took that mountain of strategic importance, which I'm pro. I think they should actually take that because Syria, there isn't a government there. You can't, the idea of being hey, that's the Syrian government should look over that mountain. There is no Syrian government. It's a bunch of terrorist factions. It's a bunch of factions. It's like when the U.S. was dealing with Al Qaeda to get out of Afghanistan. There isn't real factions over there that are looking over this place. Syria, there's nothing. They don't have. When Assad fell, which is, I think that, and we're gonna move on from this after this comment, but when you're taught about the Israeli history in Jewish day school, there's this overarching idea that God had his hand in so much of this, that God was kind of pushing. We had crazy win, the Independence War, that was God's hand because we overcame all these other countries who couldn't shoot straight. During 6-Day War, during Yom Kippur War, we wipe out entire air forces overnight. We overcome Syria's huge hundreds and hundreds of tanks that are fighting against 30 tanks. We've had incredible, crazy upsets that militarily do not make any sense. I think we will be looking back at the events since October 7th with that same view, where think what you want about God and stuff like that. The idea that since October 7th, Russia's been weakened, Assad isn't around, Nasrallah, Syria, Lebanon, all these countries, the people that hated us, and all these groups of people. I think the only one left is Ahmadinejad of the original. Is he around still?
No, it's Khamenei now.
Sorry. Crazy story. I one time accidentally followed the Ayatollah on the Orthodox Union's Twitter account. Straight up. I thought I was logged into my own Twitter account. I used to be in charge of the OU, the Orthodox Union's Twitter. And one day I was on it. This is in 2005, 8, something like that. And I was like, wow, the Orthodox Union's getting a lot of Ayatollah content on this on this timeline. I think there was God in his hand in a lot of these upsets. The fact that the Lebanon pager thing exploded and Ukraine stood up to Russia, so Russia didn't have an ability to help Hezbollah after the pager exploded, and that led to their entire government collapsing, and that was one of the more anti-Israel governments. And then the fact that we've been able to go after people like Nasrallah, and everything like that, just a very a lot of there's been outweighed damage against a lot of our enemies because of this, and has always felt a little bit like, hey, God has his hand in this. Anyways,
just one thing on the God thing, because you know that part of the religious right is saying is that October 7th happened when it happened, thanks to God, because the original Iran plan was to do like a full attack on all sides. Yeah. And what's his name? The leader of Hamas, whose name is escaping me right now.
Sinwar
just kind of lost patience.
Me and him have similar hairlines, to be completely. Not
anymore.
And now his hairline does not exist, as it's just a patch of skull. But I every time I saw him, I was like, I relate to that anger.
Maybe we are cousins.
Maybe we aren't different after all. Male pattern baldness is the thing. You know what it is? I think everyone should just go to Turkey. Everyone, Hamas, Israel, Qatar, send who's the guy? Witkoff. Send them all to Turkey. Remember when? Well, this is the last thing I'll say on this, and we'll move on for this. Remember when Eric Adams got in trouble with because he had like given favorable fire department funding, or so he got him paid off by the Turkish government because of the. You remember this at all? This is the issue that he got in trouble with, is that he had basically got him paid off by the Turkish government and been given like trips and stuff like that didn't go declared. It almost like sunk him. I think it would have been so funny if Eric Adams showed up to one of those press conferences, full head of hair, just being like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not involved with the Turkish. I have no idea. He's like combing his beautiful eyes. He's like, never. I would never take money from the Turkish. He
just has a full afro now.
Yeah. He's picking it up. Yeah, I've never met the Turkish before, and their beautiful hair technology. Humans of New York features a Jewish anti-Zionist member of the Neturei Karta. Humans of New York, if you're unfamiliar, is a popular Instagram account where they highlight individuals, and it's very, very nice. I don't know what to say. It was I remember that it's probably one of the early like viral accounts. I'm going back to 2010, 2011 here. They basically he finds New Yorkers, he takes pictures of them, and he interviews them. He had interviewed a member of the Neturei Karta. The Neturei Karta, if you're unfamiliar, is a Haredi extremist religious group who hates Israel more than they hate showering. I'll tell you that much. You ever walk by a Neturei Karta rally? It smells like ketchup, cigarettes, and body sweat. Just like this like overwhelming combination of smells. They are the ones that protest all of the Israel Day parades. They're also the token Jews. They are the ones where if you hate Israel, if you're a JVP, if you're, if you're Code Pink, if you're any of these, anti-Israel organizations, the Neturei Karta are the token Jews. They look like Hasidic Jews. They have big beards. They have strimals, and they also have keffiyahs, which is, if it wasn't so disastrous, it's a fun look, I will say. The keffiyah over the bekeshe, I mean, that's just drip, baby. That's just pure drip.
I like the talit with the keffiyah,
the tzitzis. Yeah. Keffiyah tzitzis. Yeah.
That is a thing.
Really?
Yeah, they have like talits. They're like, one side is like the Palestinian flag, and then the other side is like the keffiyah. Like,
they gotta advertise that. Keffiyah tzitzis ruin your family seder. Can you imagine just showing up with keffiyah tzitzis? Actually, you know what? This is what it is. Out there, if you're not religious, if you're a religious or whatever, if you're a Jewish person, do me a favor. Take a picture of you going home to your religious Jewish family with keffiyah tzitzis on. I want to see their reactions to it. That's all I want to see. Send that to the mailbag. The Neturei Karta was interviewed by the Humans of New York. The issue is that they were interviewed because they are the most Jewy-looking Jews of all time. Like, that is what I did not appreciate the tokenization of these people. They really are. They're like the Diamond and Silk of Fox. Remember Diamond and Silk, these two black women that Fox News would have on? Two hyper-Republican women, these two big black women that they used to have on Fox News to be like, hey, we got friends, right? Then one of them died of COVID. After like hating the vaccine. It was kind of funny. It's now bad because I don't remember if it was Diamond or Silk that died, but I saw an interview with like just Silk, and that was sad. Real sad. She misses her counterpart. Diamond and Silk were brought on because they were token black people. They were like, hey, look, we have black people. We're Republicans and we have black people. That's what the Neturei Karta are. The Neturei Karta are all of these anti-Semitic groups that want to show that they have Jews they'll pull from the Tory Carta and then they'll pull from JVP. The fact that Humans of New York posted this onto their Instagram is absolutely fucking insane because they do this to act like all Jews think like this. The idea that a lot of these protest groups try to encapsulate when they have Jewy-looking Jews is to say like, oh, most Jews, we got real Jewy-looking, these are authentic Jews. Look at this, right from the source, pure, uncut Colombian Jews. Look at this. This is how Jews feel. This is how real Jews feel. These fucking Jew bags are how actual Jews feel, which is just not the case. 89% of Jews, according to Pew, have a favorable view of Israel. That is Zionism, to be completely, I've been having this conversation over and over recently, especially with the dropout stuff. If you are a Zionist, it doesn't involve like supporting Bibi, supporting Smotrich, not feeling bad for the Palestinians, not believing that they have some rights or autonomy. Being a Zionist is just being like, hey, Israel exists and I like it and has an ability to exist. You don't even have to say you like it. You can just say it exists. That's really the bare minimum when it comes to, defining yourself as a Zionist. So Humans of New York featuring their Jewy-looking Jew bags, the only Jew bags that they can find that look like Jews, as the token look at how the Jews feel is so fucking unethical and so expected. You know what I mean? I saw this and like not a doubt in my mind that this fucking Brooklyn-based liberal, and I'm liberal. I like abortion. This is the other part to this. I never, You see someone with an account like Humans in New York, of course they would go and interview Natura Carta. They wouldn't go to a Standing Together rally. They would never go to a rally that would show people standing up for Palestinians and for Israelis. They just wouldn't. They know that they wouldn't. There's so many opportunities. The biggest thing that I have struggled with the past 600 plus days or whatever at this point is that most protesters, I think, don't hate Israel and they don't hate Jews. I think that they genuinely just want what's best for Palestinians. They want an improvement in the lives of Palestinians out there. And there's ways to go about that. Going to rallies like Standing All Hostages, I think, is great. All Hostages is the only account that you should be following. If you're following one account about what is happening in Israel, it should just be All Hostages. And also Greta Thunberg. Those are the two accounts. You should be following Hannah Einbinder and All Hostages. Fucking Nepo Capo. Anyways, if you want to go and talk to actual Jews and ask actual Jews how they feel about it, do not go to the Natura Carta. They do not represent us at all. Next story up, I got two more that I want to kind of throw your way. One, DSA condemns Capitol Jewish Museum shooting after one of its factions praises the attack. The Democratic Socialists of America seek to democratically transform their society. So this is the statement that they put out. So basically what happened is that a couple of weeks ago, 2 people get shot outside of the Jewish Museum. This was complicated for a lot of people because on the one hand, they don't like it when people get shot. On the other hand, they were connected to Israel, which is a complicated thing for a lot of people because, you're allowed to get shot if you're Israeli embassy. That's the kind of, that was a joke. Anyway, so DSA, one of the factions of DSA put out a statement right after the shooting where they said, quote, "Free Elias Rodriguez, build the international popular Cradle of Resistance." Cradle of Resistance, by the way, my ska band. I'm suing them for taking my name. They put up, and this is the quote, "The Palestinian struggle is the tip of the spear against global imperialism, as imperialism has made the entire world its battlefield, especially outside of the Jewish Museum in D.C. That's where the front of the battlefield is. It is justified to fight it by any means necessary, without regard for geography. This holds especially true for those of us struggling behind enemy lines inside the U.S. This holds especially true for those of us struggling behind enemy lines inside the U.S., an entity that is an equal party in all crimes committed by the Zionists." Omri, that's you. "Whether it is besieged Gaza Strip, the Red Sea, the south of Lebanon, or the heart of the U.S., there must be consequences for genocidal Zionist imperialism, and those consequences are righteous." They put this out. This is a problem because you can't just say the battle is everywhere, especially the day after 2 people were shot outside the Jewish Museum, and a couple days before a bunch of Molotov cocktails were thrown at those people in Boulder. DSA then had to come out and reject this. The DSA of America. So that was the people that made that statement were a smaller faction. DSA America came out and said, DSA seek to democratically transform our society and reject vigilant violence. We condemn the murder of Israeli embassy workers. Any statement otherwise is not the stance of the DSA. Now, here's the issue that I have with this. There's been a change, I think, in the way that Israeli anti-Semitism has been talked about over the past couple of weeks. And that change is that I'm now seeing a lot on TikTok, and I'm seeing the response being like, fuck Israel, we hate Israel, ... But, people shouldn't be burned alive. In Boulder, Colorado, Molotov was, violence should be used against Jews, ... But we are against Israel. It's almost like the change now has been people ignoring the anti-Semitic problems that these protests were causing and just immediately going harder in the paint, just being like, oh, there was violence committed against Columbia students. Let's not talk about the violence committed against the Columbia students. Let's just go harder and we'll protest harder and we'll rally harder. Like, there was never an acknowledgement of the issues that this was causing. And once again, you can protest against Israel without causing violence. Like, it is totally possible. Crazy story. It's totally possible to do that, right? So the change over the past couple of weeks has been with Josh Shapiro's house getting burned, with the Kanye song, with the fireballs thrown at the Molotov cocktail fireballs thrown, and the DC shooting. The conversation has now changed to people putting up like videos, the statement being like, we condemn violence. ... The genocide that is happening in Israel is terrible. The genocidal Zionists deserve all retribution. We're against violence. But the violence that the genocider violent Zionists are causing are worthy of violence. That's the conversation now. It's them almost being forced to against their will say fine, yes, we're against violence against Jews. And then immediately going into, doubling down on anti-Israel stuff. This is a big problem because it's never we fucked up, our rhetoric is causing violence, let's take a second and readjust and reevaluate how we want to go about protesting. That's not what the conversation is. The conversation is acknowledging it via just words, just saying Jews should not be hurt, or we should not be using violence as a tactic, and then going back into the violent wording and terminology that was used before. That's the biggest difference now that has happened over the past couple of weeks. It's that we've gone from completely the anti-Israel side ignoring anti-Semitic issues that was happening to now they're acknowledging the global idea of anti-Semitism before moving on and just not learning any lessons. And that is why the violence will continue to happen. And I will say this also, I think at some point there's going to be something violent that's going to happen to them. And I'm not saying that this should happen. It should not happen. But I'm so curious how the conversation is going to go once something does kind of hit them back. And it should not happen. We should not be hitting them back. We should just be using our words. We should be continuing to just play out the media game and just do what we are doing. But there's going to be a moment where something happens to that side. And at that point, there's going to be a conversation where you're going to look to the Jews. You're going to look to the pro-Israel side and ask them to stand in support. And we will stand in support because we're against this violence. And we will stand in support way better than you guys have been standing in support this entire time. But just recognize that fuck you when we do that. Absolutely fuck you for doing that because you didn't do the same thing for us. I remember when those 2 Vermont kids were shot. Remember University of Vermont? Two or three Palestinian kids were shot. One of them is disabled now. He's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life because of that. You know what happened the day after that shooting? Every pro-Israel person I saw was putting up messages in support. All of them were putting up messages in support. I have not seen a single fucking person put up a thing about the Boulder, violence thing, the DC shooting. I haven't seen anyone put up anything that was just we are sorry this happened. It was always, we are sorry this happened. We're against all violence, including what's happening in Gaza. That's not the Jewish response to this stuff. The Jewish response will always just be, we're very sorry this happened. This should not happen. We stand against violence. Period. Stop. End of story. End of sentence. That's the difference between the Jewish side of this end, the anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist side. It's not even anti-Zionism. I'm not anti-Zionist. I'm a Zionist, technically speaking. But there's no way that you can lump me and fucking Bibi and Smotrich together. It's the craziest It's the craziest thing. We live in crazy times.
I think the other thing we've been seeing is, I don't know about you, but I've seen more, less even condemning the violence and more just jumping like 2 steps forward to, you just know they're going to use this to crack down on our protests.
Yeah.
You just know that they're going to use this against us. I saw a guy who specifically made a video against me for trying to book him on my show.
Yeah.
He made a whole video being like,
That's because you aren't funny. No,
yeah,
I'm joking.
exactly. He made the whole video about like how anti-Semitism is the new communism and this is the new McCarthyism. But it's like,
yeah.
But it's like, no, you just shot 2 people. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. No, it's not comparable. It's at all to any of this stuff. It is. I will say the McCarthyism thing does kind of. It feels a little bit the same. What was he saying?
He was saying that
Anti-Zionist is the McCarthy.
He's saying that anti-Semitism is the new communism, and the like quote unquote hunt for anti-Zionists, anti-Semites, and deporting them
crazy.
Is the new era of McCarthyism.
It's the opposite. It's hunting all these Jews down and being like, hey, they're the problem. Is that what he's saying? Am I getting that right?
No, he's saying
Is he pro-Israel, anti-Israel?
He is anti-Israel.
Got it. So he is saying that the idea of calling people anti-Semite is like calling them communists now. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's also crazy because one of the funniest things that's happened after like the DC shooting and the Molotov cocktail thing is that I'm seeing like these anti-Israel protesters coming out and saying stuff like, this does not speak for our cause. This is not the rhetoric. This is not how we handle ourselves. And yes, this is how you've been handling yourself. Like, it is so crazy to see so many people now go like, oh, this doesn't represent us. I don't know where he learned. I don't know where this guy learned yelling free Palestine, globalize the Intifada. I don't know where he learned that. Where did he learn that globalizing the Intifada is a thing to yell after you globalize a couple of Jews with an Intifada? Like, it's insane, the lack of self-awareness, the lack of they will never look back at their ranks and say, hey, we should not use this terminology, we should go a little bit softer in the paint. And now they're dealing with the end of it, where they're seeing what happens if you spend 600 days just ignoring issues that your side is causing. We're at it. This is it. It ends with a bunch more security guards making a buck because they have to stand outside of an elementary school. I saw a special needs school. Yep. I saw a special needs school getting protested. Is that crazy? Special needs school. Blaring car horns at a Jewish special needs school.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was the only thing. Imagine if the only thing keeping the war going was just like, Bibi hasn't called me yet. It was like free Palestine. And I'm like, he just is not returning my calls at all. I asked him. I said, Bibi, please.
Did you see that the Boulder guy had to look up on Google how to make a Molotov cocktail?
And he fucked up. Can't take instructions at all.
Yeah.
Stupid daughter. I hope, you know what it is? This is what I hope for her. I hope that they let her get a medical license, but she only has to go into like fake science or something like that. Like, she only becomes like a
chiropractor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what? The punishment for this guy is that his wife has to get deported. The daughter has to stay, but she has to become a chiropractor. No actual soft science. That's the only thing I want out of her. Anyways, this has been an episode of the Jew York Times. Omri, any last thoughts before we head out of here?
Fucking get rid of Bibi, release the hostages, get rid of Hamas.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Also, R.I.P. I just want to say Tom Thibodeau. Tibbs. You a sports fan at all? Knicks fired their coach the other day.
Okay. Well, they did lose, so.
They did lose, but they got far. But they did lose.
They did lose.
You know, this is one of the most underwhelming NBA finals of all time. Oklahoma City and Indiana. A total of 75 people are going to be watching this event. There's nobody in either city. I've been to both. Barren. Anyways, this is the New York Times. We are here every week. We're going to be on a little bit more of a schedule. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, give us that 5-star of David. 6-star of David rating out there. And we'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye. And as Rich says, Barstool.